All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Section 2. In this section, we're going to be exploring terrorism in various regions of the world. And instead of discussion boards, each week there's going to be a terrorism event assignment. Details for those assignments are located in the syllabus and on Blackboard. All right, so the first region we're going to cover is Israel, Lebanon, and Palestine. Anyone who is in any way somewhat familiar with this region knows that there has been unrest in this region for thousands of years. There really is no way to dig into the issues here in a 15-minute or so video, so be sure to read the section of the book. I do a pretty good job discussing the issues here from both viewpoints. All right, so where to begin? I'm not going to spend much time discussing the geography and demographics. The book does a nice job of providing that background. So I'd rather spend time here kind of discussing what has and what is happening there. All right, so first the Israeli narrative. The Israeli claim to the land they possess reaches back to biblical days. They believe the land they occupy was promised to them in the Bible by God. All right, so however, the exact boundaries of what they're supposed to possess is uncertain. Over the years, the Jewish population in that area was subjected to persecution, slaughter, and subjugation at the hands of various empires throughout history, starting with the Romans. Despite all of that, they endured. And then in the 1870s, a movement began in Russia known as the Zionist movement, and it basically stated that the Jews were a nation like anybody else, and they should have a single homeland in Palestine. The movement gained steam, and then an event known as the Dreyfus Affair led to the British government helping to facilitate Jewish settlers in Palestine. Around the same time, efforts of Jewish people to settle in Palestine was increasing, with the population getting up to around 375,000 people by around 1914. The area was hard to govern and was marked by acts of violence by the Palestine Arab population through the 1920s, then again in the 30s. In 1937, the Palestine Royal Commission report recommended there should be a two-state solution in Israel. The British government rejected that idea, and then World War II started. The Jewish inhabitants in the area joined with the British in fighting the war, but then felt betrayed when the British signaled that they were wanting to improve the living standard for the Arab population in Palestine. So this kind of led to the formation of two main terror groups. The focus of these groups was on the British occupying forces. Finally, then in 1947, the newly formed United Nations voted to create two separate states, one Israeli and one Arab. Israel declared independence in 1948 and then quickly fought a war against Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and Jordan. Israel won that war and added quite a bit of more land after that. However, when they added that land, they didn't really establish defensible borders, which then led to another war in 1967 called the Six-Day War, which Israel again won. They fought another war in 1973 called the Yom Kippur War, which ended, but Israel did not win decisively. In 1979, Israel and Egypt would sign a peace treaty. Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982 in an attempt to stop Palestinian attacks from southern Lebanon. They remained there until 2000. So in addition to all that stuff we just discussed, there's been quite a few other violent acts and violent events and periods in Israel's past and present. They continue to be the target of terrorist groups and target of some of their neighbor countries. All right, Palestinian narrative. All right, there's two main groups that are going to be the focus of this section, Hamas and Hezbollah. Hamas has existed since the late 1970s. And originally, Israel supported its growth as a counterbalance to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. They participate in many social community issues, but their desires are very explicitly anti-Israel, including a phrase that says that Israel will continue to exist until Islam obliterates it. So it's clear they want to establish an Islamic theocracy in Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, and they reject any possible compromise. Twice the Israelis have killed the leader of Hamas, but instead of eliminating the group, they became more influential, act as a shadow government, and provide various services such as healthcare, education, and continue to attack Israel. All right. Hezbollah is located in Lebanon. Lebanon gained independence in 1943. There was unrest there almost from the beginning, and civil war broke out in 1975. It continued until the 1990s. The civil war was fought between various factions, including Muslims versus Christians. In 1990, the Lebanon government apportioned an equal number of Christians and Muslim seats in the parliament. They also pardoned an equal, excuse me, they also pardoned for most political crimes that were committed prior to that time. Israel has invaded Lebanon twice, in 1978 and 1982, and they didn't leave until 2000. There have been other armed conflicts as well. Because of the Israeli incursions into Lebanon, a group called Hezbollah formed in 1975. Hezbollah has become very influential in politics in Lebanon. Hezbollah actually probably poses a more severe threat to the United States than Hamas, and Hezbollah participates in stuff in international crime and drug smuggling. All right, so kind of back to Palestine now. The Palestinians also claim the Bible gives them claim to the land that Israel occupies, claiming that their ancestors predate the Israeli claims to the area. The Palestinians did not accept the UN resolution that gave Israel the land and claimed that the UN had no power to give away their land. To make matters worse, the Palestinians are angry with other countries for not welcoming their refugees, and Arab nations are angry because of what was happening. So in the aftermath, the PLO was formed in 1964 with the goal of eliminating Israel and establishing the Palestinian Liberation Army. Yasser Arafat soon took control of the PLO. In 1970, Black September happened, where Palestinians hijacked and destroyed some airliners. Then were attacked by Jordan, which drew Syria into the fray. And from this, the group Black September emerged. The PLO moved into Lebanon in 1974, just in time for the Civil War, and to join in the fight. The PLO eventually was expelled from Lebanon, and then that led to a Palestinian uprising, and fighting continued off and on until the Oslo Accords in 1993. Arafat became the leader of various groups and parts of the government. He was around until about 2000. Fighting continued for several more years. Then Arafat died in 2004. Israel planned to disengage from the Gaza Strip and 4 other West Bank settlements in an attempt to try to gain some peace. It worked to a degree. Then Hamas won parliamentary elections in 2006. After Hamas won, there was fighting in Gaza, and Israel was fighting Hezbollah. Israel was fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon, and then Israel also placed economic sanctions on Gaza. Sanctions were lifted when a new prime minister got rid of the Hamas members of the government and formed a new Palestinian government in the West Bank. So then Israel then lifted the sanctions. It did not, however, end the violence toward Israel from Gaza, and then Israel responded by invading the West Bank. Then they left again in 2009. In 2008, an agreement was reached between Israel and Palestine, where both were allowed some ground around Israel. Fatah and Hamas signed a reconciliation deal. So even though stuff is still happening over there, things have been somewhat more peaceful in the region since that time. But it flares up. Anybody that watches the news knows that violence flares up in that part of the world all the time. Rockets going into Israel attacking the other way. So even when little outbreaks of peace happen, there's certainly no guarantee it will continue because things can change over there just super quickly. All right, well, I'm going to stop there. I've probably already gone on too long. Make sure you do your assignments for this week, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll see you next week.